Inside the Birds is back. What's up, everybody? It's Geoff Mosher and Adam Caplan. It's Friday, so you know what we do. On Friday, we do our game preview. Of course, we'll have our pregame show on Sunday, 10 a.m. for the first time this year for the 1 o'clock game against the Eagles and Washington Commanders. And then, of course, the postgame show. So we'll have a lot of coverage between now and the end of the game. We've had a lot of coverage this week. Oh man, we have listen, we're really happy about all the content we've been able to bring from, the 3 ITB pods to the new show with Greg Cosell and Clay Harbor, the Inside the Tape, to the new Gun on One, now on the Inside the Birds platform that he did a great interview with Lane Johnson with this week. And Q&A was probably Q&A it's kind of funny, Adam, right? Like we had them off for quite a while. Then they just come. It's like those guys roll out of bed and do a podcast, and it blows the freaking water out. I mean, they're amazing.
People love people love their chemistry, obviously, because they're completely different personalities. But they meet in the middle, obviously, former teammates. And I don't want to give it away, but you might have seen it on social media. But you got to see Q with the hat. It's and what he did. What we've asked this before to former Eagles players, but the hatred that obviously fans have for Dallas. If you grew up in Philly like I did, you obviously hate Dallas, even though I'm not a fan anymore. But I just can't stand just the smugness of Cowboy fans and just their organization and the star and America's team and all that nonsense.
Yeah.
Like if you ranked, growing up here, Dallas is on its shelf of most hated.
Yeah.
Then it's the Celtics, as I used to call them, Boston Celtics.
Right. Penguins.
I don't care about hockey. I mean,
but the Flyer fan hates the Penguin fan.
They might, but if you just look at the general populace, it's those two teams, the
definitely
Cowboys and Celtics, and after that, it's like Yankees, Mets. I'm sure.
Just throw the New York teams in there, right?
Right, and then obviously hockey after that, but it's just something about that damn star and those damn white uniforms. It's just absolutely.
Well, and the funny thing is, Quentin has said before he hated the Giants more as a player because of the rivalry was tougher, right? But he always hated the Cowboy fan more than anybody. Which just to your point about the arrogance and everything.
They talk so much like Eagle fans. They could be negative, but they're honest and they're such diehards. They complain sometimes, but they don't give up on their team like Cowboy fans. Cowboy fans will turn on their team in a moment. They hate on their team sometimes. It's just kind of comical, and they're such bandwagon fans too. Oh my!
It's hard to take a Cowboy fan who's under 35 seriously, because all those championships they talk about, they didn't see most of them. You know what I'm saying?
Right now, I know we watch Cowboy fans. I'm sorry, we're objective. We're calling it down the middle, but you got to understand. I grew up here. I get annoyed by Jerry Jones and just the crap that. And by the way, he is the owner general manager. And there's a reason around the league with why they don't win anything, and it's because the type of players they draft. They go for the talent rather than the character. Sometimes, not all the time, but too often.
Yeah, they'll sacrifice
people in the league. Yep, when they evaluate the roster, they go, there's some issues with their character, and they fold, and that's in their history.
That is absolutely it. Quentin always talks about Cowboy. He always says, they're going to be good, but at the end they'll blow it, and That's I can't argue with him. Even in my predictions, even though some people razzed me for picking the Cowboys to win the division this year, but I also picked the Eagles to go further than the Cowboys in the playoffs. So I mean, that's all that matters, right?
Oh, okay. I forgot. That's right. I forgot that's interesting, because usually people don't do that, but because you just went with a chalk. And then you go, okay, now, but I still think, so you think the Cowboys will choke?
Yes, because I know by the end of the year, the Cowboys will figure out a way to mess it up.
No,
they do until they prove me wrong. It's same thing with the Chargers.
Yeah.
I was wrong. I think last year. I thought I picked the Chargers to go to the Super Bowl, and I was kicking myself by week 8, right? And I said, why would I do that? I know the Chargers are going to charger. I know they are. Until they prove me wrong, I got to go through that formula.
All right, what you just said, Chargers are going to charger, and an NFL assistant coach was pretty prominent, who I spoke to a week ago. It was before the Minnesota game, and obviously they won it by a miracle. It
Yeah,
was the Chargers are always going to charge, and I'm laughing. I'm like, "You're saying that?" I'm like, "Jeez, okay,
they are. It's
that's so
true.
bad."
It is. It
Yeah,
is. All right. So the interesting thing about the whole rivalries that we're talking about is that the Washington, I don't even know how, I honestly don't know how, if the Eagle fan feels about Washington Commanders. I know they're not the number one rival. I feel like the Giants and Cowboys will always be a little more of a rival because A, New York's a little bit closer, and B, I mean, Washington has been a mess. I mean, every once in a while, Washington's good or sort of good. I mean, they won the division 3 years ago with a losing record, so they weren't really
yeah,
that good, right?
yeah.
But it's just been so long since you could say Washington put like 3 good years together in a row and were really formidable. But I
It's
will
since
tell
Joe
you,
Gibbs.
I'll tell you
Yeah,
this: when I was a young beat reporter coming up on the Eagles beat at the Wilmington News Journal, right, starting off in 2005 is when I was the assistant guy, and in 2006 I was the beat guy. You know,
yeah.
back then we did the predictions on Sunday, right? You do the analysis and the matchup, and you give your. I always found the Washington game to just defy all logic. The Eagles lost some games against Washington, or that you couldn't believe they would lose, like the height of the Andy Reid era versus the height of Washington just going through, running through coaches like Spurrier and God, who knows, Jimmy. Who was the Saints coordinator that was their head coach for a little bit?
Was Haslett their head coach?
Haslett and
Was he?
Zorn, right?
Yeah.
Like they're going through
Oh,
coaches every 4 years. And for whatever reason, though, when the Eagles play them, I would think like this week, all right, the Eagles are winning this game by 20. It would be like 4. You know, it would be something crazy. And then there are weeks where be like, I think this is going to be a close game and it would be a blowout on one way or the other. So I have never been able to figure it out. And last year, stayed true to form. The Eagles were way better than Washington. There was no reason for the Eagles to have been 1-1 against Washington, but it's that game where they just coughed the ball up 4 times and were very loose against the run at times. And that was the formula.
such an odd game. They got run on badly, but it was like 4 yards, 5 yards. They just could not get off the field on third down. Remember, they grinded them,
Dying a slow
and they
death.
just could not get off the field. And that game, they should have not lost. It was an embarrassment. It was just one of those games where they just had these mental errors, these crazy bounces. But what you pointed out to me earlier this week, it's another one of those you can't believe, but it's true, right? So last year, was it week 3 that Wentz got sacked 9 times?
It was week 3 of last year that the Eagles had 9 sacks against Washington, right? And when we did our NFC East preview this summer with Greg, did we do it with Greg? Yeah, I think we did it with Greg, right? We went through each team, and what we talked about with Sam Howell is he may not be great. He may be learning. He may be, someone that you can get to, but he's mobile. He's more athletic at this stage of his career than Carson was last year. And I specifically said he's not a guy that you're going to be able to sack 9 times. And wouldn't you know it, week 3 again this year, they didn't even wait for the Eagles to get to town, right? Or to play the Eagles. Week 3, who'd they play last week? It was Buffalo. 9 sacks. I don't know if any other franchise, I'd have to look it up, has ever given up 9 sacks on the same week 2 consecutive years. That's freaking. Just pencil him in 2024 for 9 sacks in week 3.
It's so hard to do that. He was awful. Their line is. We're going to get into the matchups later, but this is another one. It looks really good on paper for the Eagles here, so we'll get into that. We won't give it away here, but we got some interesting information to talk to you about, which we were able to get.
Yeah,
we always tap people who are insiders to the club, and we got some pretty good stuff here.
Yeah, speaking of really interesting information, our Patreon members were treated. You had such a good idea as we do our Chalk Talk series, where we do a podcast each month with somebody from either a coach or a front office or a scout, where we try to go a little bit beyond the field, right? And you had such a great idea to catch up with Dr. David Chow, because the Eagles have some injuries. And for those who don't know, Dr. David Chow is on Twitter at ProFootballDoc, and he diagnoses a lot of injuries just by video. He watches it on video and he can tell what certain injuries are, and he puts it out on his Twitter account. And he has a website called sicscore.com, Sports Injury Central. He does a podcast, all that. And Adam came up with the idea. The Eagles have some injuries right now, but also let's get the viewpoint of someone who is technically a front office member, a head team orthopedist or team physician, and what their involvement is in certain decisions or certain, when you're drafting guys and you get all this medical information. And he had a really interesting story about, the team he worked for drafting a couple of guys who had medical red flags. And so it was really fascinating stuff. But I thought from an Eagle standpoint, and what our listeners would be interested to know is that he had some interesting things on what he said about Avonte Maddox. He doesn't think Avonte Maddox is necessarily out for the year. So if you listen to that, you'll hear his thing. And AJ Brown's knees, which you had reported was, part of the reason why the Titans were reluctant to give him a long-term deal and traded him to the Eagles, the knee history. He had a term about the knees that I had never heard before and really went into really great detail about it. And also Nakobe Dean, like the whole Liz Frank thing where it's not necessarily a Liz Frank fracture, but it still could be a Liz Frank injury, which would be much more mild.
Sure. So he went into the AJ Brown thing. Wasn't it the Titans offered AJ Brown a deal, but it was not, the guaranteed money was so poor. It was a team friendly deal because they worried about the long term condition of one of his knees. Is what I was told a year or whatever ago, year and a half ago. And so they were open to moving. Obviously, so far, and as we talked about with Dr. Chow, the Eagles do such a great job of making sure he gets to the game. He doesn't practice very much. Whatever they prescribe, like he practices it, he practices every day, but it doesn't practice a lot. It's whatever they prescribe as regular reps. Maybe it's like if the receiver, if they get 30 reps of practice, he's getting maybe 15 or 18. They're really smart about it. That is why the Eagles do such a phenomenal job. This staff and sports science and everything they do. Yeah, they have more injured players listed on the injury report per week now than they did last year on average, way over it. But these guys are still playing. That's the difference. It's like they get these guys to the game on Sunday. That's most important.
Yeah, and you just reminded me of a point I wanted to make on Lane Johnson real quick. But for those who want to catch this Dr. Chow interview or our weekly chat with John DiFilippo, who watches the tape of each game and gives us a breakdown of Eagles offense, or the Discord chats with Adam on Wednesday night, our Ask ITB live streams, we're always adding. It's patreon.com/InsideTheBirds. Become a member. We will treat you as, like royalty. What's what we're trying to do for our Patreon members. I don't want to gloss over the whole interview that Lane Johnson did with Derek Gunn in episode 3 of Gun on One, which is now on Inside the Birds. Because the injuries you're talking about made me think of Lane talked about playing through that torn groin and had a really interesting story. He said, I don't think he ever said this, but at the end of the Super Bowl, on their last offensive snap, the Eagles' last offensive snap, he felt like a real sharp pain that made him wonder if he was going to be able to get back out on the field again. Now, the Chiefs then got the ball back, and we all remember what happened. You get the holding call, sets up the field goal, time expires. The Eagles never got the ball back again after that because that's how the Chiefs won the game. Had they not, had the game somehow, I don't know if it could have been tied, right? It would have been, I don't know if they could have, what was the final score? 33-31?
I'm
drawing a blank right now.
38-35.
Right, 38-35. Yeah, so let's say he misses the field goal, right? And the game had to go in overtime and the Eagles get the ball first. There was some serious question about whether or not Lane would have been able to go in there and play. He said for all the pain that he played through, that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back, or that last snap that he played. But unfortunately for the Eagles, they didn't get another snap. Fortunately for Lane, he did not have to put himself because Lane would have tried to gut through it anyway.
Sure.
But the whole interview with Gunner, so people know, it's sort of like what we said with the one on Jason Avant, where it's about telling his story about his struggle with anxiety and depression, to not just tell it, but to let people know. Awareness, education, all these things in case they're struggling too. Lane made this point. He talks to kids a lot now. He wants people to know that if you are struggling, that there is help and that you're not the only person who have gone through it. And for a big name like Lane to come out and discuss it is really important. And I thought Derek Gunn did a great job with the interview, and Lane did a really good job articulating what he felt at times. When he left the team 3 years ago, what was going through his mind. I had no idea it was so much football related as well. Like that, the whole idea of I'm Lane Johnson, the 4th overall pick. I have to be the best. I must be the best. How much that contributed to his internalization of that and anything else going on in his life, and what it was doing inside. I don't think anybody outside of his inner circle knew that. So it was just a really good story. And I appreciate Lane for sharing that story on our
I
platform.
do. And he's in a much better place than he was. We talked about this in spring, what we'd heard. He's just doing much better.
Yep.
Good was him going public, and his good friend Brandon Brooks through Brandon struggles with anxiety and so forth. And you know how close they are and were. So it's a big thing in our country, depression and anxiety and all that. And kudos to Lane and great job by D Gun.
Yeah.
And the two have known each other forever, obviously since 2013.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been a remarkable story considering what Lane's had to go through to persevere. You never judge people. Whatever they go through is what they go through, and just support them.
Yeah, no doubt about it. All right, let's talk about the injuries coming up in this game, the injury situation for the Eagles, because there are some positions where they're already thin, and you're hoping they're not going to get too much thinner. Now, Britton Covey popped up on the injury report on Thursday. He was limited.
Yeah, he should play.
I think that's all right. I always worry about the hamstring because, especially with a returner. But it sounds like he's good to go.
Not a lot. I'm not saying it's a lot, but
right.
Again, they didn't practice Wednesday. They don't anyway, and they always have a walkthrough. So he was added this week.
Mm-hmm.
Here are the guys who are added. We do a pretty interesting injury report. We kind of expanded it this year. Let's start with the guys who are added this week. Covey's a punt returner, by the way, one of the best in the National Football League. He was really good in the second half last year. People forget they kind of snowed on what happened in the first half. Well, the real story was they couldn't block for him. That was the problem.
That is true.
Yeah, he's much better now. So Covey, who's a backup slot and punt returner, hamstring. Landon Dickerson, as we said Wednesday, he's going to play. He dinged his knee a little bit. He's fine. He's fine. He'll play. He took all his reps on Thursday. Cam Jurgens, this is also a new injury. Groin, he should play.
Played well, by the way, against
he did.
The Buccaneers. Yeah,
he did. And then these are concerning. These are the two new ones at safety. Justin Evans, who was not cleared to return with a neck injury, you don't know what it is, and Sidney Brown. It's not a thought. Well, they call it a thigh. It's now been narrowed down to a hamstring, and neither practiced. They didn't go through the walkthrough Wednesday, and neither practiced on Thursday. So that's a problem. They only have two healthy safeties right now. Terrell Edmonds, and of course Reed Blankenship. So that's it.
Yeah.
And they did not. I got their workouts this week. They did not work out a safety. So they must think one of the safeties will be available because you can't go into a game with just two.
Yeah, I just wonder which one, right? I mean, because Evans is still out with the same injury. Well, they're both still out, sort of with the same injury that they had in the game. So
who's that?
Both of them, Evans and Brown.
Yeah. I mean, today's the last day of practice for the week, and then they have the Saturday walkthrough. So that's concerning. And Tristan McCollum's the only safety they have on the practice squad. So who knows their defense, second year in it with the club, but that's concerning, man. That these look, they were thin in the secondary to begin with. No Vontae Max if there's who's their slot corner, obviously. He's done for months. And they got to get through it, but they will.
All right, we'll see. We'll have obviously more updates on that on the pregame show. As far as other players that were just listed but are probable, I would say they're looking good. Boston Scott, the concussion, I believe he's still in the protocol, but he was able to get out on the field, if I'm not mistaken, right? Yeah. So
Scott,
that's part of it.
Barring anything unforeseen, he'll play. He just needs to see the independent neurologist. Quez Watkins started working Thursday. That's good. He's still on the injury report. Devontae Smith removed with the hamstring and thigh, but he didn't work Thursday with the illness. 9 times out of 10 guys with illnesses wind up playing, but we'll see what happens later today. Fletcher Cox removed with the rib injury. Now he's got a knee issue, but he's expected to play. Zach Cunningham still has the ribs. He's expected to play. Removed this week. Gamer with the ribs. Jack Stoll with the ankle. Jordan Davis with the ankle. Josh Sweat with the toe. Bradbury with a concussion. Terrell Edmonds with illness, and Reed Blankenship with the ribs, which is good.
Yes. Yeah, good news. And I'm thinking about the whole safety pick. I mean, Reed and Terrell Edmonds can start, but even if you thought one of your two between Justin Evans and Sidney Brown could play, that's still just 3 safeties. That's not like you're.
I know.
And McCollum's on the. I mean, he's never played a down in the NFL.
I know. I mean, why don't they sign a veteran? They got to work out veterans. We'll look into it. I'm sure they're going to, but they just haven't done it yet. So that would be all of the Eagles' injuries. Man, they've had a lot of players listed the injury report so far, but they've as much as you see these guys listed, other than Maddox, they've come through with this stuff fairly well.
Right. Now the Commanders on the flip side, Adam, they only have like one major guy in the injury report,
Yep.
correct?
Yeah,
But they do
Logan
have a
Thomas
bunch of
now.
guys. They do have a bunch of guys on IR who are just out. Like, not I wouldn't say stars, but they got like the receiver Milne, right? He's on
That's Milne. Yeah, and
Dax
he'd be
Milne,
like right. He would be their fifth receiver.
right? The
Um,
second tight end isn't Caden, why is his name?
Caden
Oh,
Smith,
Caden
who's a
Smith.
backup. He's just a blocker.
Yeah,
They're okay there. They're okay, but although Mathis, a D tackle, is a guy who would have been good.
that's the one, right? Yeah.
Yep. Your guy,
Fidarian Mathis.
yeah, Fidarian Mathis, right? Troy Apke, your guy from Penn State, who's a backup safety. He's really it's just a special teamers on IR.
Mhm.
But the big one's been Logan Thomas. He got illegally hit in the head against Denver on a
Right.
touchdown catch, and he missed 2 games, but he's back this week, barring something unforeseen. And he's had some games against the Eagles. He's so tall, a former college quarterback at Buffalo. Other than that, they're in good shape here, and they need him. They got John Bates, Cole Turner's a slot tight end, and that's pretty much it.
I completely forgot. I knew he was a college quarterback turned tight end. I forgot it was Buffalo. He and Tyree Jackson are like the same person, right? Because they're both also like 6'6". They're both
Exactly.
really
No,
tall.
Jackson went where? Where did Tyler Jackson go to?
He went to Buffalo.
Buffalo? Did he? Wow.
Wait a minute. Are you sure Logan Thomas went to Buffalo?
Wait, where did Logan Thomas go?
I think you might be confused. Now that I thought he went to like
Virginia. I'm sorry, my bad. You're Virginia Tech. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, man. I was like,
yeah. Good call. In fact, this is the great thing about what Logan Thomas did. He saw. Look, he was a Senior Bowl guy like Tyree Jackson, but the difference is Logan Thomas was drafted, and he had awful accuracy. After a while, I said, you know what? I'm not going to make it. I got to play tight end. So it was with Arizona, Miami, the Giants, Buffalo, Detroit, Washington for several years, and he converted, and he finally made it. And he did not only did he make it, he got a huge contract because he became a player.
Yeah.
And
if I'm not mistaken, he had a great game against the Eagles a couple of years ago, like double-digit catches, I think, against the Eagles. I'll
just
look
know
it up.
he's
I'm
done
pretty
well
sure
against the Eagles in the touchdown. He's older. He's old point. Talk about time passing by. He's 32 years old now.
Wow, that's incredible. I really would not have thought he was that old. That's amazing.
Yeah. Good story though. I'm glad he's recovered.
Yeah. And so that's really it for them on the injury
That's
front.
it.
Must be nice, right?
Yeah, look, they were so bad last week. We'll get to that in the preview week.
Okay.
Information, but they're just a team that they don't know. They kind of think they know what they want to do, but they're not able to do it. And
yeah,
it's bad turnovers. Gibson he's been basically relegated to, well, he's been a backup anyway for a while. He had a bad fumble yet again, and he got benched. Rodriguez, the kid from Kentucky, who's explosive, number 23, and they can't get out of their own way. I cannot believe they put this offensive line together like they have. Based on what you said earlier to start the show, there's a reason why they're never going to get anywhere.
Well, yeah, we were having that conversation even off the mics a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
It boggles my mind that you play in the same division with the Eagles and the Cowboys, right? And you see that those teams, more so Eagles, but the Cowboys do a good job of it too, of drafting offensive linemen, quote unquote, overpaying attention to the position, using a lot of first round picks at that position. And the whole shiny toy thing, like, I love Jahan Dotson. I went to Penn State. I'm a big fan. But are you kidding me? Like, the same thing with the Vikings taking Jordan Addison. He's going to be a really good player. But if you're getting your quarterback beat up play after play after play, what's it so great to have all these great perimeter weapons if the quarterback can't see him because he's looking up out of his ear hole every time they play a good defense?
Yeah, it's just not protect the quarterback. It's overall, you want to be as good as you possibly can on the offensive line. It's why Plagues Washington, they don't have a stud. I mean, if you really look at it, right, as we get into the matchups and so forth. Charles Leno was a Bears refugee. He was cut by the Bears. He revived his career. Nice story, but he's a below average tackle.
Yeah.
Nick Gates is a refugee from the Giants. Sam Cosmi's playing out of position. Some tackles playing guard. And Andrew Wiley, for some reason, the Eagles couldn't beat him, but going into the Super Bowl was that he's below average, and he really is. That's the way the league sees him.
Sure.
Now, I know they're excited about Ricky Stromberg, who's a interior lineman, who's a third rounder. They want to see him eventually, who's out of Arkansas, could play center or guard. But the Eagles should eat. I mean, I went into the Tampa Bay game. I said, look, the difference is that here's why the Eagles are going to beat the Bucs. Their D line versus the Bucks O line. It's a major mismatch. It turned out to
Yeah.
be.
Yeah. I
This
mean,
should be right.
yeah, it boggles my mind. Like you have one of the best left tackles this game's seen in Trent Williams. You pissed him off. All right. You had a good enough. I know he got hurt, but you had a pretty good right guard in Brandon Scherf. He did make, I think, an All-Pro or a couple of Pro Bowls. You let him walk to Jacksonville. Like, what are you doing? You get, and then you go watch a quarterback become Swiss cheese every Sunday. Like, I just don't.
They don't protect and they don't block. They're an average run blocking team.
Mm-hmm.
Brian Robinson's look great. His ability to get upfield with one cut for a suss is pretty interesting. It's pretty great, pretty special, to be honest with you. He's looked really good so far.
Mm-hmm.
So they're pretty happy with him. If Gibson, ball security continues to plague him. Former receiver at Memphis, they switched this last year to running back, former JUCO player. He's just not a natural running back. From what I'm told, that's been the problem with him. He just doesn't have the intuitive feel to play running back. He's super explosive in a straight line.
Mm-hmm.
But he's bucking to be benched. And Chris Rodriguez is the kid from Kentucky. He's a sixth rounder. He's explosive. The Senior Bowl guy. I saw him there. A good receiver, of course, you mentioned with McLaurin, has been an Eagles killer with Dotson, Samuels for slot. De'Ami Brown, who played with Howell at North Carolina. They've got an excellent receiver core. That's not the problem. They got this brand new offense. You don't know what you're getting each week. They can't protect very well. Hal broke down mentally and broke down in the pocket. He moves around sometimes because I know he's smaller. He moves around at great space. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
And Buffalo does not have a very good pass rush, but they made Buffalo's pass rush way better than it really is.
Yeah. Yeah, I did see I saw Howell running around a lot.
Yeah.
And I thought the same thing. I'm like, I didn't think Buffalo. I know, but well, they have Von Miller. I mean, they've got some pretty good players. Maybe they're a little better. Oh, that's right. That's right. Yeah. Yeah. All right. Let's get into the real matchups there in a second. First, I want to remind everybody that Inside the Birds is presented by our friends at Ocean Casino Resort in Atlantic City. It is the exclusive Jersey Shore resort of Inside the Birds. And let's pause for a second to hear another word from them.
Go to get your game on. Go for the beers. Go for the cheers. Go for the hit and the hits. Go for the stakes and the stakes. Go to get your parlay on. Go to get your party on. Go for the scene. Go for the screens. Go for the gallery. Go for the win. Go to Ocean. Visit theoceanac.com to plan your visit.
All right. Let us start off with the Eagles offense against this Washington defense. I think I said this in the last pod. You know, every year I look at the Washington's defensive personnel and I think this is going to be the year they put it all together. You know, a couple of years ago, they seemed to put it together. It's when they won the division with a losing record, but they were very tough defensively. And then, you know, they go out and give up. They win the game against Denver, but they gave up over 25 points. I think they gave up 30 points, right? It was like 31-30 or something.
Incredible game. Yeah.
It was a great game, just not, you know, the great defense. And then they just get absolutely pantsed by the Bills. Was it 37-7? Something
it was
crazy
because right, but it wasn't because Josh Allen was great. It's because they kept giving him the football.
Yes,
he turned it over 5 times, and Allen didn't really do much other than dig. He got the ball to Diggs, but it's just the offense put them in such a tough way, and there's not much they can do. But yeah, you're right. So we'll look at the Eagles' offense versus the Washington defense. So
yeah,
Montez Sweat's having a good year. He's underachieved for most of his career, but he's having a good year. Jerron Payne's one of the best tackles in football. John Allen still gets it done. Chase Young been hurt a lot, ACL, neck. He's finally healthy. They're hoping to get him going here. Casey Toohill, former Eagles there, but the key here is the interior of the Commando defense versus the interior of the Eagles offense. The only chance Washington has is to make Hurts get rid of the football sooner than he wants to get pressures on him. They don't have to sack him. That's not important. You'd love to get them. What you need to do is move him off the spot. Because Hurts was so comfortable in the pocket, and I know he held on the ball a little bit too long, but their line was so dominant against Tampa's front seven. That cannot happen if you're Jack Del Rio. And by the way, they play mostly match carry deliver zone.
Yep.
A little bit of man, and the Eagles know how to get after that one. So I'm interested to see what Washington does to try to get the Hurts, because you cannot let him throw you cannot let him. He could have read like a 10 Commandments last week. It was pretty incredible how much time he had.
You know you know how we always talk about that perfect semicircular arc.
Oval. Yeah.
Yeah, you got to see that, in the passing game. I thought everybody looked pretty good in pass pro for the first time. All five, and even in
Good point.
Minnesota where they ran the ball really well,
Yeah.
I thought there was pressure because, well, first of all, Minnesota blitzed on the first 6 plays of the game. I don't know how much they
Crazy.
expected that,
Yeah.
and blitzing isn't always on the offensive line anyway. You got to have guys picking up the extra rushers. But we knew Tampa was going to be aggressive. We knew Tampa was going to throw a lot of guys at the line of scrimmage, and the Eagles handled it really well. Obviously, the run game was ridiculous. I mean, they just mauled them.
You could run against Washington, and as I will continue to say for the 6 years we've done the show, you could line up 9 in the box. It's all how you adjust your line. You could run your 5 offensive linemen and 2 tight ends versus a 9-man front. You could still run on that. I've seen
you could, but you shouldn't be able to against their defensive personnel and coaching should be better. I mean, there should be a better marriage there. I don't know what's going on. They've got talent in the front 6 and 7.
Yeah, no, but you could still run on anyone. It's just a matter of how you decipher the slant of your line. But
right,
Washington's just wildly inconsistent. It's very rare for their front four first round picks. By the way, Jamin Davis has been an underachieving first round pick. He's still starting it. He's still starting, but he's just not been the impact player because he was very welcome out of Kentucky. The thought was he'd be a really good coverage linebacker. He's still not instinctive with it. He's kind of raw when he was coming out. So this is his 3rd year. That he needs to have a breakout season. They don't have very good depth on the defensive line anymore due to Mathis. We said it was on IR. So Eagles will be able to protect, I believe. The only thing I'm a little bit worried about is short week. In that heat and humidity, was in the high 80s throughout most of that game.
Yeah.
So you're really worried about, and I know that they know this, getting hydrated, getting rested, all that. So it's the only thing that would worry me if they just don't have a lot of juice for the game. But they can handle this line. This is underachieving defensive line.
Yeah. I think that there'll also be an opportunity here, Adam, for depending on how aggressive Jack Del Rio wants to be. I mean, I watched a little bit. I was able to see a little bit of tape against Buffalo Bills, not a lot, but he did throw some pressures at Josh Allen. So I have to think that he won't be afraid to throw them at Jalen Hurts, and that'll be opportunity to get AJ Brown and Devontae Smith. Remember last year, Devontae Smith took advantage of some early pressures, and he had a huge game against Washington in week 3, right? That was the game where he made the crazy acrobatic catches and was leaping into the he almost got hurt. He landed on his neck making a catch.
He did. He came back after one play. I could see it as you said it. I could see it right in front of me. It was one of those, oh no, get up, and it got up. Now they hit Cam Curl's really good, 31. Emmanuel Forbes is 166 pounds, which I'm told when they drafted him, that was his weight. It's literally when he weighed in for his physical. St. Just is good as a tall corner. Juan Martin's back. He'll eventually. He's not really playing much. He was also hurt. He's eventually going to be their nickel, who's a 2nd-round pick who we absolutely love. Kendall Fuller's still there, number 29. They have a nice secondary. It's beatable. Yeah. Spread them out a little bit. Now here's the question: the Eagles have not been heavy 11 personnel, mostly because of Quez Watkins' injury. Now, will they start going a little bit more 11? Will they spread them out? That's a good question. Now, obviously, it depends on also how they block up front. The good thing about the Eagles is they have such versatility. They could play a lot of 11. They could play a lot of 12. It's just a matter of how they view these matchups.
So I have a theory on this sort of the way the data looks. I think that their 11 and 12 personnel splits are a little bit skewed by the fact that for whatever reason, when they come out, first 15 plays, like so usually your first 2, maybe 3 drives, they've alternated between 11 and 12. They've come out, you see 12, right? Once the game kind of settles in from second quarter on, they get way more into 11. They'll put some 12 out there still, but it feels like it goes from 50-50 for the first quarter to then like 70-30, 11 personnel leading from then on. And then when in the fourth quarter, right, when they were running the ball out again, I think they went back to playing some more 12 personnel because they were just grinding out. To me, their bread and butter is still being in 11. You know, when they threw the touchdown to Zacchaeus, they were in 11.
Yeah.
When they threw, right, when AJ Brown almost had the touchdown, I think he dropped it. Right, that was out of 11. So I think when they're those, we learned that those first 15 plays are not just about, setting a tone, but also about learning how the defenses are going to adjust to what you're showing. So I remember them doing this last year too, but then as the season progressed, they went way more to like we'll come out in 11 and start bombing on people.
Here's the thing with how Sirianni's in love with Quez Watkins. They're going to be heavy 11 when if he's playing now. He started working Thursday. We'll see how he does today and the walkthrough Saturday. But they're going to heavy 11 if he plays. I mean, that's just what they do with him. So you would see that, but I'm glad OZ did well. Like the scramble drill for the touchdown that was great. Obviously, he read Hurts. That's really important because that's going to show a trust the coaches can have in him because that he did that because they haven't been together very much. So that's a good sign there. And again, their protection was so amazing. It just was. I just kind of was in awe. We don't talk a lot about their offensive line because everybody knows it's great, but I was pretty much in awe with what. And I watched the tape earlier this week. I watched the first half. I was just like, my mouth dropped. Like, you see them looking for work. It's a coaching term. You see them. Okay, who do I need to get? Who do I need to get here? The double teams were ridiculous. Like, it's just 100%. It's just unbelievable. I get excited watching it. I'm not an O-line guy. It's pretty cool.
Listen, I think that anybody who watches the Eagles, right? Even if you're not a line guy, you just watch the Eagles and you become a line guy. You're like, wow. Yeah. And then if you're fortunate enough to have the all 22 and watch like the double teams,
yeah,
and then Jason Kelce maybe executing a double team, leaving it, going into the second level, covering up a linebacker, and then if you watch the other team try to do it, like there was a play last week where the Bucs ran a sweep to the outside. So they just kind of out of the shotgun, they tossed it to Rachaad White. He's supposed to go off right tackle. Now the center on the play was supposed to get into the second level and sort of try to wall off Zach Cunningham so he couldn't just get to the ball. That center almost fell over his own feet trying to stop Zach Cunningham. Cunningham just ran right around him and got to the ball. That stuff really jumps out when you watch Eagle because Jason Kelce would have got there and flattened the guy. You know what I'm saying? It's just so different when you watch the Eagles do stuff, basic stuff, compared to other teams trying to do it. So I'm an O-line guy. I like it now. It's fun.
Well, when you cover the Eagles amongst 32 teams, you know that this is all about their offensive line. It starts with them, and it's pretty special what they're doing. It's like they don't miss a beat. Dickerson's a stud. And then Cam Jurgens is really coming to his own. His technique, as we told you before training camp, if you listened to us, we said he's well ahead of Steen in that area. And they never even let him compete. It's amazing. And Cam is, it's not how much you weigh. It's about what your technique is and your hand usage. It's so important because if you don't have good technique, you're not playing. And it's a nice story. It's a really nice story that he's doing.
Very good. Yeah. They have to be happy with the results so far. All right, so that's pretty much the Eagles' offense against Washington's defense. We talked about their we didn't mention really DeAndre Swift. I mean, I imagine he's going to be the primary ball carrier when the game is not out of hand, right? Like first quarter, second quarter, third quarter. I don't know that they're going to want to do 50-50 in the first quarter as much as they did against Tampa, because I don't know if blitz pickup is going to be as big of a deal against Jack Del Rio's defense as it is.
You never know.
You don't know. That's a good point. But I mean, historically, Jack Del Rio does not blitz at a 45% clip the way Todd.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to be like Todd Bowles. No, I agree with you there. But the thing is, Swift is not as good as Gainwell is in pass pro.
Right.
But I think we all know who the main back is clearly Swift. It's just a matter of, okay. And as I said in our post-game show, actually our pregame show, then our post-game show, and I'll say it again, get this guy out of the game. If you got a lead, it's more than 10 points, get him out. I could not have felt better about the staff when they did that. They totally got it.
100%.
Just not physically. It's just a Gainwell for all. He's not fast. He's not explosive like Swift. But man, he's grind well. He grinds carries. That means you could give him carry after carry. He'll get you 2, 3, 4, 5 yards instead of negative runs. He falls forward. Now I didn't get the 4th and 2. I get that. But last year, arguably the NFL's best short yardage back. So let him keep doing and grind carries once they get a lead. And I expect them to get a lead in the fourth quarter.
I would agree. All right, moving on to the Eagles defense versus this Commanders offense, or Commandos, as you like to call them. So Eric Bieniemy is now next man up in trying to figure out a way to design a run scheme. Like you said, mathematically, you should be able to run against everybody, but personnel matters, and the Eagles have superior personnel in the trenches to what Washington has. Even if you give Washington a numerical advantage, I'm not sure it's going to matter, because the Eagles are beating double teams right now as good as I've ever seen a defensive line beat double teams.
I mean, yeah.
go ahead.
And let me tell you something. They're playing Sadiq Charles, who's really a natural tackle at guard. I know this is second year playing guard. Cosme at right guard is a tackle. Nick Gates is at very average center. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Fletcher Cox is playing out of his mind now with his energy and his passion for the game. They're in trouble. I was wrong last year when the Eagles, I don't know, for whatever the hell happened in that primetime game. Look, I picked the game wrong. I haven't got many Eagles games wrong the last 2 seasons because I generally pick them every game.
Yes,
just because they're better than everybody else. But
by the way, this is why I strategize the way that I'm competitive. I don't think people who listen to us and then comment on YouTube understand. I am trying to win the season predictions. I want to be number one. Okay, I want to win.
No.
And I know you picked the Eagles to win nearly every game because the matchup says they should win nearly every game, right?
Now,
so I've got to pick my spots. Not all the time, but I'm saying I've got to pick my spots where I think the Eagles might be the better team, but just might have that day like last year against Washington. Now, I didn't pick him. I picked them to win last year against Washington. It was the Giants game 2 years ago that I correctly sniffed out that they were just going to have a terrible game. Right. But people got mad at me. People said, how do you spend 2 hours on the pregame show doing all this analysis and then pick the Eagles to lose? I know. So I'm just letting everybody know now. I said even in the prediction, I thought the Eagles were the way better team than the Bucks. I just thought maybe this would be the week that they coughed the ball up more so than normal. And I was wrong. I own it. Shout out to my friend Prince, who called me out for being annoying on it. He said he rolled his eyes. It's annoying when Mosher picked and I get why it would be annoying, right? We went for 2 hours, right? All we did was talk about the matchups and how undermanned the Bucks were and how hard it was. So all the analysis said the Eagles were going to win that game. And what do? I go pick the Bucks. So I get that it's annoying. It makes no sense. But now maybe people understand. I'm just strategizing. It's just a prediction. Let's not.
But one of these games, they're not going to go 17-0. They have the gauntlet schedule it starts with the Dolphins, then the Bills, Niners, Chiefs,
right?
Cowpokes. I mean, it's unbelievably tough.
It is.
You know what? But that's why you're hoping, if you're an Eagles fan, and 99% of the people watching are, that they're 6-0 when that happens, because they're not beating all those teams. I'm sorry, they're not. It's something. It's just and look, the coaching's terrific. They're executing better, as you said earlier, and I agree with you. The Bucks game, the execution was much better. It wasn't perfect. They left some points on the field, no doubt. Hurts has got to play a little better. That's coming here, folks. He'll get better. But the bottom line is they're so much better than Washington. I cannot believe they're putting this offensive line out there. Look, I understand every once in a while any NFL defense is going to underachieve. I just don't see it happening. With the energy and the passion that they play with, I know someone asked, might have been Ed Kratz, who asked, it was a really good question because we have the same question. What's motivating Cox? Not only playing well, but he's playing more snaps than the other guys.
Found the youth.
I'm like, I did not see that coming. He's playing. It's not the sacks, folks. It's getting upfield, making the quarterback move. He's a leader. He's the word around the team is he's more or less the leader of their defense. I know most people probably wouldn't agree with that, but that's what we've heard. It's true.
Right. And
he's bringing it, man. It's a good story. It's they're going to annihilate that line. I cannot see them. The Commanders should be embarrassed putting this line together, but that's why they play the games.
Yes. So getting back to Eagles defense versus the Commanders offense here.
Yep.
I do want to. I did a little all 22 showcase on InsideTheBirds.com about the Eagles defensive line, and I want to bring to light in this podcast something that we actually talked about last year. We had a couple of different personnel sources tell us that that they were surprised the way the Eagles defensive line was engaging, meaning like it was kind of a dormant, meaning like they lined up and tried to occupy a gap, right? Which is just being gap sound, which is fine. They were gap sound. It's just that they were pushed out of their gaps, right? We talked about Javon Hargrave being driven back by double teams. Fletcher Cox at times was too. They were a little bit lighter of a front and not as, Jordan Davis wasn't playing. So now Davis is playing and now they've got Jalen Carter. One thing that was told to us last year is that people were surprised that they didn't try to use their athleticism more against the run, like doing what they call slanting and stunting. Slanting is when you might line up over one of the linemen's shoulder, right? but you are crossing his face so that he can't just engage you right off the snap. Like you're trying to quickly get inside the lineman before he and somebody else can double team you. It's a way of avoiding double teams, way of breaking down sort of run schemes, right? Well, this year they're doing. And I just told you about, like, you can see on tape all the double teams that they're beating. They are getting inside penetration on a lot of runs before the lineman can even drive them back because they're doing that up front. That is a strategical maneuver that a couple of people told us last year. They thought the Eagles should have been doing that last year, and for whatever reason they weren't, but they are doing it this year, and it's making a difference. I mean, making a difference, A, because they're doing it, and B, because you've got Jordan Davis and Jalen Carter now playing like beasts, and then Fletcher Cox is rejuvenated.
And honestly, people want to see Jordan Davis play 70% of snaps. A, they don't need to. B, I don't know if he's ready to do that. It's great in his role. I love the way that they juggle the D tackles in there. It's just it's working for them. They don't need to overdo it. Let these guys work into the roles. Jalen Carter's unbelievable. We all know that. I'm not telling you anything you didn't know.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also working within that amount of snaps that they're using. He's doing a great job. I know he's technically not starting, but he's playing a very pivotal role in the role that they give him. And remember, they only had 47 snaps on defense because the offense held the ball for so long.
Yeah,
it was awesome. Another thing that's incredible. With this 1-2 punch of running back with Grindwell and Swift and Boston Scott, assuming he gets cleared, they're great there. They can control the clock if they decide they wanted to do that. I think you made a great point to start the season. The D tackles have to clean off Morrow, whoever their ILBs are, and they're cleaning off the linebackers.
Yeah,
what's that?
They're doing a great job of keeping
clean them off. That's a huge tactical point, which we can't make enough. Zach Cunningham's look really good. Nice find for the Eagles. He's not killing them against the pass like some people thought. Reddick will get there. Reddick will get to the passer. It'll take some time, and as Cosell pointed out, Milt Williams is playing really, really well. I mean, their rotation's ridiculous. And Kentavious Street, he barely plays. And Tuipulotu had a great rush. Obviously,
but they play well, right? These guys get like a combined 9 snaps. Street and Tuipulotu, they get in there and they play, and you don't even notice that that Carter and Davis are off the field.
Yeah, and BG's not playing as much, but it's fine. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you, folks. This is a well-oiled machine. Offensively, they're not where they need to be. The defense sure is. And remember, they don't have a natural slot. Bradbury's doing what he can. He graded out very well, did an excellent job. We'll see how they use him this week. That's interesting. Blankenship had a great pick. He's been a great story.
Yeah.
Now, again, they have not gotten to the meat of their schedule when they play the superior athletes of receiver and tight end. That's coming, and then we're going to really learn about Blankenship, but it's been a good story so far. So what else can we tell you? Opeta did a good job, by the way, for the 25 snaps that he came in for Dickerson.
Mm-hmm.
So, and Job did a nice job, by the way. He really did a nice job. So I'll tell you what, folks, this thing's looking really good, and they better not have any issues against the Commandos, because unless they're exhausted, they should handle this football team. They're not very good.
Yeah, the only thing I can think of is that Bieniemy is gonna. Obviously did a good job in Kansas City. Are they a great offense here? Are they doing anything really fancy in the run? I don't know. I only saw a little bit of tape against the in their last game against the Bills, but they were down pretty early there. So I know against the Broncos, Robinson averaged 4.8 a carry, and that's pretty good.
He's been great. That's not for the prop, but you know what, the Eagles, you're not running on them.
Yeah, but that's the thing. It's maybe if they try, they're going to have to get creative. He's going to have to get Samuel out on the edges. He's going to have to do, and you got to kind of get the feeling that as these weeks go on, right, and experienced coordinators like Bieniemy watch the tape, they're going to know that they need to get their ass in the lab, right? They can't just bring their normal inside zone, outside zone. They got to do some shit here, right? Like they got to go see some things. Okay. So that's my only, honestly, unexpected, what kind of rabbit are they going to try to pull out of their hat?
I mean, listen, Gibson, and I know his ball security is terrible. The coaches clearly don't trust him, but he is explosive. If they're going to have to, if Howell's not playing well, they're going to have to try something else, because he's their guy. They're not moving away from him. And we all know, McLaurin's had some good games against the Eagles. They got to try something else. It sets up for an Eagles relatively easy win. Yes, these NFC East games take on a life of their own. These have had some head scratching games, whether it's against the Commandos or whatever it is. Not the Giants so much, because the Eagles have destroyed them for years. But things happen sometimes in the division, but I just don't get that feeling in this game.
Agreed. If I were the Commandos, I would be thinking heavily about a screen game and a misdirection
With
game,
Gibson.
because you're
Yeah.
trying to catch. Yes, you're trying to get this aggressive front off guard. Because right now nobody's been able to really get them off balance. But as we go, someone's going to try to figure out some way to catch them, and we'll see. All right, let's get to our predictions. First, we're going to remind everybody to check out our friends at phlsportsnation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of all Philadelphia sports teams. For the fan, by the fan is their motto. So make sure you check them out at phlsportsnation.com and on Twitter at phlsportsnation. Let's also hear a word from our really good friends at Sky Motor Cars.
Sky Motor Cars in Westchester is a different sort of dealership. All it takes is one look at their Highline pre-owned vehicles that people all over the country want and need. Owner Brett Schiller, make sure you don't spend a dime of your money before you purchase the car. Sky Motor Cars allows you to make all the decisions regarding your next vehicle. At Sky Motor Cars, you never have to spend more than necessary. Visit SkyMotorCars.com today or call 610-918-7225.
And if you happen to jump in there to Sky Motor Cars in Westchester, PA, make sure you tell them Adam and Geoff sent you. You will get a great deal. All right, you first. You make the prediction.
All right, so I was close in terms of the total points last week. What was it? Odds 25-11.
Yeah, so that's 36 points.
Right. So I had it 40. I think I had the total 40, and I know you had over in that game. I think. Right.
I had a high scoring game.
Yep. I'm having another one. I don't see them scoring much. I have it 24-13 Eagles. What is it? 8.5? Is that the number?
Oh, that's a really good point. I forgot to check there on the line. I thought I saw it was 8.5. Yeah.
I'm going to double check real quick, but I got it. I have it. We're going to go 20. We're going to go 24.
9 now. It's up to 9, by the way.
Is it 9? Okay, 24-13, and it depends which book you're looking at.
Okay.
At 43.5. Yeah.
43.5. Okay, so wait, you're saying 24-13?
Yeah, I'm gonna go 24-13.
Eagles, of course, right? You have to state that.
I'll tell you what, though, when they play the gauntlet of games, I mean, we'll obviously have to see what the injuries are like and matchups are, but cannot wait to see that Miami game. Oh my God.
So this game to me has like 33 from an analysis standpoint. Has like 33-16 written all over it. It has 33 or 38 to 13 written all over it. I am leaning in that sort of direction. I'm gonna go 31-16. That's an Eagles win.
Okay.
31-16.
Okay, by 15. Yeah. So now look, Hurts. One of these games is going to go off. Like they're going to have.
I think it's going to be this week.
Okay. Oh, really? Well, we didn't even mention Goddard in our little preview here. Like one of these games. It's hard for all three of their top targets to go off in the same game, but one of them's coming. I don't know which week it's going to be, but it's going to happen. I can't see all three doing it, but one of them, and one of it's going to be bombs away. You just remember against Tennessee in Pittsburgh, it was incredible last year when Hurts was playing out of his mind.
Yeah.
But this is it's NFC East. You never know. By the way, weather is going to be for people who don't people out west or Midwest. The weather's been terrible for a while, but it's going to be beautiful over the weekend. Mid-70s, sunny on Sunday.
Are you saying it's not going to rain? Because it's literally rained every single day.
Nope, it's going to be beautiful. It's going to clear up, and I cannot wait. And hey, it's the first, by the way, first divisional game. So we'll see. And as you said, 1 o'clock. What do they have? 4, 3? How many of them do they have this season?
Just 3 or 4. Yeah, not too many of them.
But we'll see. In fact, so their next 1 o'clock game is. Figures week 8 at the Commandos, and then week 17 versus the Cardinals. Of course, that could be flexed if the game means anything, and we don't know what week 18 is. That they're leaving that open. Mm-hmm. It's incredible. Well, the Eagles are a popular team, and they deserve to be. They should get America's game or whatever you want to call for some of these weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so we will have an even more in-depth preview Sunday morning, 10 a.m. Me, Adam, Cosell, Avant, It's going to be 2 hours of not just X's and O's for all the great football junkies out of there. And after the game, it'll be myself and Adam and Clay Harbor for the Eagles or for Inside the Birds post game live. And by the way, if you happen to be out, in Philly and you don't want to catch the game, I'll be at Hard Rock Cafe for the first half of the game on Sunday, doing a little watch party, entertaining the crowd on hand. I'm gonna give away some memorabilia. I'm gonna have a little fun. We'll ask some trivia questions. It'll be a good time. So I'll be out there at the Hard Rock Cafe in Center City, Philadelphia at the game. All right. So that's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the birds.